Good morning. I have a to-go cup today. This one features the Luna Moth design. I hadn't tried it out yet. I'll sit down for a second. And I thought today's the day. So as you can see, we are in this setup. Oh, and wow, okay, it kept the coffee really hot. Okay, and it's early, so it's early, we're doing this. And what we're gonna do today, I thought I would share a little bit. I'm gonna do the first part of the book, the story. And so this one might be a little bit longer than my typical ones, and I'm not gonna do a lot of talking in the beginning so we can just kind of dive in. But yeah, I'm getting ready to record some of the vocals. And so I thought, well, I need to do a warm up on this anyways, why not do this for coffee time? So this is like the intro to everything. I will condense it a little bit as far as like some of the bowl part, and we will try to keep it mostly to the story. And hopefully you will be able to hear me okay. I tried to do a test run and I was trying to figure out a little mic situation, but honestly, it was proving to be more than what I should be dealing with at this time in the morning. So we're gonna do it just straight acoustic. Okay, so get your coffee or tea, your beverage of choice, and settle in. This is, I'll put this over there. Okay. So the book, the album, whatever form it's gonna be, is called A Journey to Love. Let's just get a little bit. So on the album, there's going to be some more instrumentation and more sounds, also be healers. Some recognize and hold reverence to the earth, to the waters, the fires, to the winds. Instead of swarms, they send out ripples that reverberate, expand, merging vibrations. Encompass not only the earth, but the spaces below and above it. They don't claim to own the winds so they can move freely through them. They flow like water, twisting and turning, ebbing and flowing, running through the hills. They are one with themselves. They are one with the land. Their thoughts, when spoken, are like a fire to a flame. All humans have within them the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, a capacity to hold great evil and a capacity to hold great love. They can transform fears into hope, hate to love, darkness into light. They only have to remember who they really are. Each of the elemental realms, the earth, the winds, the fires, and the waters, were paired with their own messengers. The languages of the elements are so intricate, so unique. They've existed since before time was counted in numbers and before years were counted by days. Their words cannot be shaped by mouths or read by eyes, simply understood by those willing to listen. The messengers could provide a bridge of communication between the elements, the life forms that dwelled within them. In their own realms, their bodies were that of little arms and legs and pair of beautiful wings made up of the elements from which they were formed, freely flying around, floating and singing with the most beautiful of voices, voices that only each element could produce. When the time came for them to take on their roles as messengers and journey to another realm, their bodies would transform, covering with armor for protection. The armor is intricate and unique and beautiful as the languages themselves. The only part of their former existence that was still visible were their wings. Since there's no way to say their names with our native tongue, I will give you the names they are commonly called when spotted on Earth. From the fires came the beetles, covered in thick, shiny armor, some with giant horns and antlers, others smaller with iridescent shells. Full of courage and determination, they are the continuers of cycles. From creation to destruction, from destruction to creation, they are the fierce warriors, but wise with the understandings of how the earth works, because they know it from the inside out. In its molten form, it creates the rivers within the earth, but once outside and within the realm of the winds, it becomes a flame, flickering in conversation with the breeze. The only realm that the fires cannot enter was that of the waters. The waters, like the fires, can move freely between the earth and the winds, changing forms just to change once again. Their messengers take the shape of a dragonfly, long, slender bodies, large eyes that can see near and far, translucent wings that carry them freely through the breeze to follow the paths made by the rivers to the seas. Their movements are flexible, quickly adapting to change with wisdom to know that they are ever flowing, ever changing, unending, and ever being. The airplanes have started. The earth is its own realm, never journeying into the others, but instead holding the space for all to exist. Its messengers show in the form of a praying mantis, silent observers, patient and calm. But when the moment arises, their actions are powerful, swift, and precise. They are the observers with the wisdom that comes from silently watching generations unfold. And that brings us to the winds. The winds reside in the spaces above, freely flowing over the waters and the lands. They are not one for being contained, not one for being still. In constant motion, feeding their energy great celebration. One last gathering before their journey's down. The winds of change and the winds of time knew that if anything were to be done, it would happen there. So they made their way to the home of the cicadas. And as they blew, they were joined by hundreds of butterflies, all bright and golden as the sun. They rode the winds like a crest on a wave, weaving in and out of each other, creating a spectacular array of colors. Their wings singing songs of joy. As they reached the home of the cicadas, they began flying closer and closer together, spiraling up and down until all the colors became one. A full moon had begun to rise, and out of it flew the most beautiful, glowing, translucent, pale green Luna moth. It floated in and joined the others as they made their way to the center of the gathering. The winds of change and the winds of time knew that the shift had already begun, because the butterflies were the messengers from the sun and the moths from the moon, and they rarely journeyed outside of the earth realm unless it was for a very important message. The music began to slow and lull as the cicadas turned to face their guest. The messengers from the sun and the moon began to speak in unison. We have come because there's a shift taking place, one that can tip the balances, one that can rearrange time, one that can rearrange space. A shift into the unknown. The shift will start first in the humans, and the effect that it has on them will ripple out into all of the other elemental realms. The messengers from the sun and the moon paused and bowed, and then moved back as the winds of time and the winds of change came forward to speak. They spoke of fate, they spoke of the convention of the winds, and they spoke of the humans, and once their stories had been spun, they too fell silent. The cicadas sat in the weight of the revelation, the silence thick as fog that settles in over the lake between the mountains right before the break of dawn. They felt the honor, they felt the responsibility, they felt the moment, the calm before the storm. And in unison they asked, "Then what shall we sing?" The winds of time said, "I will give you the stories of the people, the ones where their souls wrote in darker times, but in the moments that they had hope, in the moments that they believed, and in the moments of purpose." The winds of change chimed in with, "And I will give you the stories from the land, from the winds, from the earth, from the waters and the fires. May the wisdom of the elements flow through the songs as the river flows deep. I give you the stories where faith was present and faith prevailed." Then the messengers from the sun and the moon came forward and said, "And we will give you the songs of love." This is the story of a girl, wild as a mountain, free as a sea. As the sun began to set over a field once it reaches the ocean, it becomes the ocean. It becomes one in a new form and never questions what it once was or the path that it took. It is in a constant state of being. It is, we are, I am. Okay, that is where we will stop today, because the next part of the story, when the story picks back up, starts going into things with, let me get my coffee, with the guitar. So the next probably hours worth of the show or story is all guitar-based music and storytelling. So yeah, I hope that y'all enjoyed this. I know it's a little different than our typical coffee time, and yeah, my mind is a little blank right this second. I have to go into another zone to like try to do all the reading. But hopefully the audio picked up okay and y'all could hear me. Thank you for hanging out with me as I did my morning practice of trying to get my words right. Luckily, when I'm recording the words later, I won't have to be trying to play the bowls at the same time. I can do those separate for the recording. And today, I think I also get to edit, I recorded all these wind sounds while I was on the top of the mountain a couple weeks ago, and I want to use them to make my Convention of the Winds, to make the audio part that goes like behind this in the book. And I've got some cicadas. I've got to do some editing on some cicada sounds. The things that I would have never thought I would be doing if you'd asked me a couple years ago. But I love it. And so I'm going to end this video. I'm going to go hit the gong just for the fun of it. So thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and yeah, spread some love. Ending with the gong. I was in here experimenting with gong sounds yesterday, and I walked out and there's people hanging out. I was like, sorry, I was just trying to figure out how to make the thing go boom. Okay, y'all have a great day. Bye.